love that.
Here's the second half we're turning in. I've got Jim coming up right after that
Tiff said so mom.
to do the first reading before shop. So what if you all
All right, Scott. Good, good, good. I'll get out of the way. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Today
River Road. I'm Karen Rasmussen, and I am so happy to serve as your affiliate minister. Welcome, welcome to worship with us on this beautiful fall day. I have one of my favorite shirts on today. It says books, coffee, dogs, and social justice. Each one of these plays an important role in my life, but sometimes the order of the words changes around a little bit. Today, social justice is the main word. After the service, out front on the patio, you'll see tables with all kinds of social justice happenings going on. Stop by the tables and say hi, and learn a little bit more about the cool and engaging things that River Road is doing. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see a project that you would like to be engaged with too. We now invite you to take a moment to turn and greet your neighbors. For those online, feel free to use the chat function and say hello. Let's welcome each other. Good morning. All right, everybody, come back to me. Come back to me. Thank you, everybody. Have a seat. Have a seat, everybody. For those in the sanctuary, we have 2 candle stations, one up here in the front and one in the back or off to the side. We invite you, as you are able, to light a candle in honor of something or someone that is on your heart at any time during the service. For those of us joining us at home, we invite you to light your own chalice or candle. Each and every one of you is welcome here. Whoever you are and however you arrived at this beloved space, you are welcome here today. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in our hymn, This Little Light of Mine. The words will be projected here.
Shine. Today's Prophetic Voices is the book All Around Us by Zelenia Gonzalez, illustrated by Adriana M. Garcia. All around us. Grandpa says circles are all around us. We just have to look for them. He points to the rainbow that rises in the sky after a thundercloud has come. He traces the colorful arc with his hand and says, "Can you see? That's only half the circle. The rest is down below, in the earth where the water and light feed new life. That's the part we cannot see." But in my mind's eye, I try. Grandpa and I work side by side in the garden, planting flowers and pulling vegetables. We eat what we've grown, crunchy lettuce, sweet carrots, and spicy chilies. Grandpa saves the leaves, stems, and seeds to bury back in the ground. Here is another circle, he says. What we take from the earth, we return. He draws a big circle on his belly with his hand and a little circle on mine and says, "We even have circles inside." This makes me laugh. Grandpa and I take a walk around the neighborhood where we find other circles: the sun, the clock, the bicycle wheels. We stare at the green and brown rings in each other's eyes for a long time, and then we laugh again. He's right, circles are everywhere. "I'll show you one more important circle before the big round moon comes out," says Grandpa. We walk back in our yard and sit under a tall pecan tree. Grandpa seems sad when he sits here, because this is where we bury the ashes of our ancestors. I don't remember them, but he does. Even our bodies return to the earth, he says, and pats the ground with his big hands. But that's only half the circle. That's the part we cannot see. Finally, we walk to the front yard to water our smallest tree. Grandpa planted it for me the day I was born, and everything that fed me while I grew in my mother's belly is buried at the roots. I love bringing water to the apple tree that is already taller than I am. Grandpa pats my head and says, "Do you see, grandchild? We have new life with you." I am part of the circle too, the part we can see, just like a rainbow.
The light shines, not on one point along the circle, not even along the half of it we can see, but along the whole arc of the lives we live in, the community we build. The light shines, not in one phase of life, but across them all. And as our children, youth, and religious educators head off to their class, we invite them to shine on, just as we do, just as we hope to, in every moment that is given to us. met by the loving heart of God. I want to also lift up the joy that Schweib will be playing with the Virginia Chamber Orchestra on November 5th, so if you need more of that light in your life, you have that chance. I also lift up in this season of mounting political action and anxiety the courage of all those who labor in service to our shared democracy in all of its many forms that labor might take. I lift up the simple task of voluntary participation in democracy itself. The reality that though the ground beneath our feet might feel shaky, the chance to lead the way is not so very far. Absentee ballots are on the way, my friends, and Election Day is indeed around the corner. However you vote, whoever you vote for, may our agency and participation in the world around us be a blessing to ourselves and to each other. This morning in our service, we reflect on the opportunity and the astounding possibility of a call that just keeps evolving. A sense of purpose that doesn't happen in the flush of youth or in the midst of climbing every single socially constructed ladder, but that expresses itself throughout the course of our entire lives, changing and confounding and clarifying itself all along the way. We're blessed today to have two reflections from river roaders who have gone very deep into this reality in the decades that bring to culmination of their own life's wisdom. And if we dare it, each of us might be invited in these words to a recommitment of our own deepest values. Evelyn Jacob and Charlotte Jones Carroll are voices and persons who many of you are blessed to know. They carry within them the deep privilege of an early retirement and a hungry soul. They know they have miles and miles to go along their journeys and so much to give to the world. Surely not all of us have stories or experiences just the same or parallel to those that Charlotte and Evelyn will share today. But in their reflections, they open a window to how every single one of us might seek out the deeper purposefulness amidst it all. Something different than just doing more things. Something rather like being more real.
As great Howard Thurman wrote, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who come alive. Today we lift up all the people among us and beyond these doors who struggle to stay alive and come alive in the presence of a great struggle.
We lift up the moments of gratitude when the shadows flee away, if only for a moment, and the way forward finally becomes clear. We lift up the knowledge that even if we stumble, even when we are afraid, every phase of life brings its own calling, its own great measure of devotion, made not for some other person or some other version of our lives, but for ourselves as we are.
We take the time in this hour to make space for the calling still unfolding in our hearts, for the journey that begins with the merest imagining, the yearning that makes us into something new. In this silence, may we perceive a voice which speaks in the low places of who we've been, of who we are, and who we are yet to be.
Out of the silence will rise a song. I invite you, when that silence ends and the notes of music begin to remain seated, and join as you are willing and able in that invitation of the classic hymn to return again to the very home of your own soul.
This morning we'll sing Return Again. Can you hear me okay? as a round. It's a round in 2 parts, and Linda and I will teach you each of the parts first, and then we'll start singing it as a round. Linda will lead this half of the room in the balcony first, and then I will bring this half of the room in as we sing the whole thing through as a round.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to the home of your soul, born and reborn.
To Be of Use by Marge Percy. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become native to the elements. The black, sleek heads of seals, bouncing, half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like the water buffalo with just massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest, who work in a row and pass the bag along, who are not parlor generals or field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is as common as mud. Botched, It smears the hands and crumbles into dust. But the things worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amorphous for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in a museum, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Good morning, I'm Charlotte. My 3-decade career in international development was well planned. I was inspired by John F. Kennedy during high school to become an American diplomat in Latin America. I trained for that career in college and in grad school, although I admit I switched from diplomacy to development because I really didn't want to represent US policies in Vietnam. I was able to pursue a very fulfilling and inspiring career, jobs serving the poor countries around the world in AID and the World Bank. Along the way, more serendipitously, I managed to marry a wonderful man and to raise an accomplished daughter. At a certain point, though, I began to feel that my 11-hour work days and my extensive travel were not so fulfilling after all. I had an urge to spend more time with my family, so I began to rethink my choices. I decided to retire early, and that was a good move. I was able to be more present with my family, yet I also knew that in addition to that, I had possibly another 30 years of being a contributing human being. What was I going to do with those 30 years? Knowing my need to be of service and inspired by a chaperoning 40 youth that River Road sent to a peace conference in The Hague, Netherlands. I don't know if anybody remembers that, in 1999, but I decided to focus on peace building. I was also inspired actually by the fact that civil conflict in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia, where I had worked, undermined the development work that I had been contributing so hard to. So I began to study peace building and conflict transformation. Figuring out how to apply what I was learning meant looking at what other skills I had and what opportunities existed. I mean, I knew about Latin American culture and language, and I also had learned how to manage programs. I knew about La Clínica del Pueblo, thanks again to River Road, and I began to see that I could focus my peace-building skills on immigrants and refugees. That would be my new calling. This led to my serving on La Clínica's board of directors and eventually quite a few other boards of internationally organized nonprofits. I had to learn to be an advocate, to do advocacy work, because those 30 years with federal and international agencies, I was prohibited, as I'm sure some of you were or know, I was prohibited from doing any public advocacy or lobbying. I got involved with UUs for Social Justice, advocating on immigration issues, and I helped start the task force here at River Road for this purpose. So I found myself spending more time with my family, which is what I wanted, but also engaging in meaningful service as I entered my elder years. Now, David Brooks wrote a piece in 2010, which he called The Summoned Self, and in that piece he contrasted persons who lead a well-planned life, setting goals and pursuing them, as I had, with persons who move towards a calling, where they find an opportunity that matches their passion and their gifts. I realized I had lived a well-planned life up to that point, and yet I had intuitively started seeking more balance. I had been summoned, and fortunately I listened to that inner voice. In conclusion, I want to talk a little bit about conscious aging. In these years since retiring, I've had to learn new things, and that's a good thing. I've enjoyed that. After studying peace building, I joined OLLI. I learned about OLLI, the lifelong learning program. Locally, American University sponsors that program. And I started taking classes, and I actually taught some. One day, the OLLI coordinator asked me if I would teach a class on aging and spirituality. I took a whole year researching what I would do if I offered that class, and eventually I did offer it. What I discovered is that if we choose to come fully into our later years, determined to live with purpose, we have to harvest whatever wisdom has come our way by, experience using good judgment and bad judgment. And then we have to find ways to share it through mentoring, through service, through creativity. I did end up teaching that class at OLLI 5 times actually. And then afterwards I joined a wisdom circle that gathers monthly to explore how to be a wise elder, or even just a good grandmother. It takes real intention to turn away from the attractive, quiet, comfortable retirement years, to embrace the opportunity to rediscover your soul and your roles and give from your passion. That's my current journey. And fortunately, I have a lot of role models out here in the audience. Thank you.
What is it that we gather together when we give our offerings? Surely we know we gather together the money it takes to keep this place going, but now and perhaps more acutely than ever, what we gather together in times of offering is our capacity, our willingness, the level of vulnerability, the amount of risk, the holy labor we can lift up not just to our congregations and communities, but to the realization of our values in the world. And so in this time of offering, we say once again how deeply we mean it. That the gifts we give here and in the world are gifts of time, of talent, and of treasure, expressed in so many ways, each and every moment that stretches out before us. At River Road, in this very specific little time of offering, you can give in all sorts of ways. We've got a whole box right back there in the middle of the sanctuary. You can also give on our website. You can write us a check. You can text to give 73256, which always makes me feel like a televangelist. Give, not until it hurts ever, but in the ways in your life and in your community that feel good.
This is an excerpt from The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. It was already late. Enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones, but little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of cloud, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
Hello, I'm Evelyn Jacob. During my years as a professor, I enjoyed and took deep satisfaction in pursuing my research, developing courses, and helping students learn. These activities exemplified my values. However, to advance professionally, I took on many tasks that were unsatisfying to me. I worked way too many hours, and I put large parts of myself on the back burner. I did succeed professionally, but spending too much time and effort on externally motivated tasks took a big toll on my body and soul. Eventually, I decided to take early retirement. I wanted to live my next phase differently. I wanted what I do and how I am in the world to flow more consistently from within me. I wanted to reclaim parts of myself that had gone dormant and to move toward wholeness. One part that I reclaimed was my creative self. During vacations in my career years, I delighted in photographing nature. It fed my soul and energized me, and I wanted to do more of it. My inner voice, or little light in light of today's service, also guided my choices of what to photograph. I love our native spring wildflowers. I relished searching for their cheerful blossoms, identifying them, and photographing them in ways that convey my love and joy. Learning about wildflowers also led me down another path. I realized that invasive plants are crowding out the wildflowers I love, and that the changing climate is helping these invasive plants spread while hurting the intricate relationships between wildflowers and their pollinators. I learned that plant and animal species are becoming extinct, that climate change is impacting humans, especially the poorest, in many ways. I now see climate change as the most significant challenge in our world. I made many lifestyle changes, volunteered my photography skills, and became an activist through several groups, including River Road's Earth Ministry. After retiring, I also paid more attention to how I am in the world. I decided to approach photography as an amateur, meaning that I do it because I love it, not for money or fame. I have also done inner work to accept some patterns of behavior I had not previously acknowledged. Through the teachings of Pema Chodron, I am beginning to know and befriend these parts of myself, and to see them as gateways to compassion and authentic wholeness. As I reflect on my life, a story about Rabbi Zuzia comes to mind. When he was an old man, the rabbi said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Zuzia?'" I don't know where the rest of this journey will lead me, but I hope that at the end, there will not be a reason to ask me, "Why were you not Evelyn?" Thank you.
See, that's the thing about this place, is that you just ask almost any one of us to say something true from deep in our hearts, and it'll move you to tears. With the depth of our capacity and our hope and our skill, with what brings us into a state of awe at the astonishing beauty all around us, and the way in which that awe can lead in turn to the very heartbreak that guides us to action, you ask any one of us to tell an honest story, and you will learn something new about yourself. As we prepared for this service, I was moved deeply by the divergent starting points that grabbed a hold of Charlotte and of Evelyn as they sought after those next steps in their own callings. I was moved by the absolute authenticity of each, as perhaps you also were today. You see, Charlotte, in her reflection and in my experience of her that I have been so honored to share over these years, Charlotte is a person driven by the hope and the determination that she can, with her ample powers and her humility and her grace, that she can be of use. That each endeavor she undertakes transforms itself in some small way into a more livable world for all the whole rest of us. Now, Evelyn, on the other hand, in the most sublime way, Evelyn started with a desire for wholeness. She began with the perception of beauty. She started by seeing and then photographing and relating to the wonder that is a wild flower. A deep inward yearning to be more whole than the whole world had heretofore lined up with all of its demands to make possible in her life. She knew there were parts of her being that had been long neglected or underutilized in the professional world, elements of her very core identity yet unexplored. Does that sound familiar to anyone else but me? And so she started with beauty and let it lead her forward in due time to service. Just as Charlotte started with a desire to be of use and let it lead her forward in time into a deepened spiritual life that she could in turn share with others. How do we all listen? I mean, really listen. How do we perceive and pay attention to the movement of our own callings And what is it that we take with us along the way? What yearning, what drive, what desire, what appreciation, what anger, what faith? What do we take with us along the way? Because a calling, or the renewing of one, it does not simply happen without the courage and the intention to pack up everything we will need and take it with us along the journey. Literally or metaphorically, to pack up what we will need and head somewhere over a horizon we have not yet ventured beyond. I am reminded of a story that my colleague, Reverend Sherry Halliday Kwan, once told me about the Peace Corps. You see, Sherry, she used to work as sort of an onboarder for the new volunteers for the Peace Corps, and as such, she was working with people who were pursuing a calling, a vision, a whole new land beyond a vast horizon at a very different stage in life than the stories you just heard today from Charlotte and from Evelyn. Most of the folks she was working with were about 19, maybe 22, at the most 25. They were setting out on an adventure of a lifetime and a lifetime of service, a story perhaps many of you have a parallel understanding of, having served in the Peace Corps or around the world yourselves. Now, Sherry used to be the one to advise these new Peace Corps volunteers on literally what to pack when they headed out on their own overseas assignments. She told them every time to make 3 piles. Pile 1, the things you are absolutely certain you will need. Pile 2, the things you feel like you probably might need. Pile 3, the things that you strictly speaking do not need, but that give you joy. She let those young volunteers think on these things. Maybe even ponder the size of their backpacks and think about what they would put in those piles. And then she told them how really, to parse it out when it all came down to it, take half of the first pile, she said. Half of the things you absolutely are sure you will need. Take half of them. Take none of the second. And take as much of the third pile as you can possibly fit in your bag. Because you can always replace the necessary objects of life. Most of the things you think you might need, you will not need at all. You can never replace what it is that brings you joy. What grounds you in your own identity and history and story. You cannot buy it in a store. You cannot get it anywhere else. You must make room in your life and in your bags or in your service to the world for what brings you joy and what holds you to earth and what reminds you who you really are, because you will need it so very badly along the way. Without it, the work, even the most worthy of it, it wears thin, and the way ceases to lead on. Whoever you are, at whatever stage you are in on your life's journey, whether your calling is concealed under layers of sorrow or injustice or hurt or closed doors or pain and patriarchy and suffering, whether your calling is beginning to surface just above the very layers of your life you thought might so long conceal them. May this morning be one small part of your larger invitation to do not only what you must do, but to do what makes you come alive, to show up fully for the stretch of your life that is immediately before you, and to show up as ever more fully yourself. May you pack your bags full of all the joy and the commitment and the authenticity and the purpose you can possibly cram into them. For surely you and I and all of us will need it along the way. I want to say thank you to Charlotte and to Evelyn. We are so glad they are themselves. And thank you to Jim Heaney. I have missed your voice in this pulpit. Jim, what a gift sharing our readings with us. One of the pieces of the collective fabric of our shared ministry that we have not fully been able to re-knit post-pandemic is our lay-led services, where more routinely we lift up the voices of all you saints and sages and normal people with great wisdom to share. As we continue to plan and rebuild in the coming years, I hope to bring more services like this and services we have yet to imagine that highlight your voices and your authenticity and your stories. But for these folks today, thank you. I want to thank Reverend Karen. What a gift that her affiliated community ministry is at home right here, where she can share as many books, dogs, coffee, and social justice as her heart desires, right here with us. Of course, the teen choir, the youth choir, their fearless leader, Cliff Harden. The entire River Road Choir and our tech crew, which today we've got Scott and we've got Tom and Hugh Abrams-Heldy. And I think Jeff Hollingsworth just couldn't stay away, so he's over there cheering for them. It is a labor of love every single time, because we lift up what we have for the good of the whole. I have a few brief invitations to get involved that I want to share today. Firstly, that after this service is our social justice fair, right, Karen? So right outside at coffee hour, you're going to see tables, flyers, posters, all the info you could need about how to get engaged in the way that is authentic to your calling in all the variety of social justice ministries that we have to offer here at River Road. And in something dear to Evelyn's heart, you can reset your relationship to the climate by joining one of River Road's Climate Reset workshops, which I believe begin this week. The workshops will meet once a week for 4 weeks. You can learn about your personal carbon footprint, and you can learn about the beginnings of larger actions that can have impact on legislation and on the choices we make in building and in decisions around our collective life together in Montgomery County and beyond. Earth Ministry volunteers are facilitating those workshops, and they're going to be fun. They're not all going to be a drag. You'll get more information, and you will get the chance to inspire yourself and others to action. You can find out more on the Earth Ministry website, or you could just talk about it at the Social Justice Fair. Also, Action in Montgomery, which is the broad-based citizens organization. I see you, John Kerner, the broad-based citizen organization that is very close to my heart, and perhaps the most accurate representation of what it is to bring together the will of the people writ large in Montgomery County. AIM is meeting with ACT, that's our partner in Annapolis, and with PATH, which is in Columbia, for a candidate action this Thursday, on Thursday, October 20th from 7 to 8:45. It'll be in person at Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church in Odentown. We can help you get there. We'll also have it on Zoom, and everybody's kind of nervous about turnout. So if it is remotely possible you could join us, please do. We are going to have Wes Moore with us. We'll have Brooke Learman, and so we hope as many people as possible can join us. I know John Kerner has information. Linda Bleedingheiser has information. Likewise, Social Justice Fair, we got you covered. Finally, people can support our partner churches throughout the month of October, just as we did last night at our amazing Partner Fest celebration. For the folks who are on the Partner Church Committee, including Joel, Ursula, Janice Hazelhurst, this is, do I see Pat Wand? I see you, Pat. Such a labor of love. And Ray Angelo, so many people not only made that event happen, but cultivate that relationship over the span of time. Next week, we will be extending our complete offering to our partner churches. So come, be ready to give. Let's make that contribution substantial in so many ways next week. What a gift it is to pursue our callings and stretch ourselves across new horizons together. And now, as we take this light that we have kindled out into the waiting world, may the truths, that make us free. The love that casts out fear, and the hope that never dies. Guide us and those we love and those we do not love forward together till the day spring breaks and all the shadows flee away. Amen.